4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello everyone. There is a lot happening in the world and clarity is in short supply. To walk through some key issues and understand what is really happening, we have Dr. Eyal Hulata, who served as the former National Security Advisor under former Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett. Welcome to this interview and thank you for being with us. Just to understand what's happening on the ground, what it means strategically, and what might come next, let's get right into it. I would like to start with your piece, Tehran is Exposed. You made a case for a serious strike on Iran, and that caught my attention, especially because it seemed like a shift in your stance. Can you walk me through the thinking behind that argument and what changed?
So first, I'm very happy to be here on MBN. Appreciate the activity that the network is doing around the Middle East in giving a reasonable voice, I think, to the audiences in the region to what's happening here. And yes, I think the situation with Iran has been evolving very, very quickly. In the piece that I wrote from FDD with my colleague General Amir Eshel, we made the argument that if Iran is clearly not willing to reach a reasonable agreement with the United States in the negotiation, and if Iran has decided to dash or creep towards a bomb, meaning not only to accumulate the enriched uranium, which is a very dangerous thing because it gives them a short period of time to dash to a bomb. But if they decided indeed to dash to a bomb, that leaves very few options to Israel. Because Israel's commitment not to allow Iran to get weapons of mass destruction and to pose an existential threat on us is serious. And it appears, according to what we've been all hearing and seeing and listening to in the last few days, that Iran not only decided not to continue the negotiations with the United States properly, but also started creeping towards a bomb. And if that is the case, then at least for an Israeli context, it means that the triggers have been met.
We are a few days into this right now. Is it too early to make a call on how far Iran's nuclear program has actually been rolled back? How do you read the impact so far? Months, years?
So I think it's a bit early to give a professional, accurate estimate. But let's talk about what Israel has targeted, and from that we can try to understand what Israel has been trying to achieve. Israel is focused on three elements of the nuclear program: on the enrichment facilities, on the mechanism around the materials and conversion, and I'll talk about this a little bit, and on the weaponization program itself. And let's start with the last one because I think we've heard a lot about this. Israel was able to target simultaneously a large number of nuclear scientists, all related to the weaponization program, meaning the scientists that have been trained and worked for decades to build the bomb itself. This has been a campaign for Israel for many years, less so in recent years. And this has been a significant part of it. If this was successful, it means that Iran does not have the professional people who know and have built themselves and taught themselves how to build the bomb itself. Israel has taken the archive back in 2019, I think it was, 18, beginning of 18. And now if the key scientists are not there and their facilities are hurt, it will be very difficult for Iran to dash for the bomb.
You mentioned targeting the scientists tied to the weaponization program. Based on the people who were hit, do you think Iran lost a real chunk on its knowledge base, or is that being overstated?
From what I can see, I think that the vast majority of the deep knowledge that Iran had, people who started this program, the weaponization program back in the 90s of the previous century, people who've been working in what was called SPND until 2003, when Iran presumably stopped the weaponization program itself. But for more than 20 years, they continued to work in various universities and laboratories to keep the knowledge, taught new students to the extent that they could. This was the cohort that was supposed to come together and do the work. And if they're not there, it will be very difficult for Iran to do this. And I think this is a crucial element because without it, Iran cannot build the bomb itself, which is the reason why we started this operation in the first place, because there were intelligence indicators that the supreme leader has allowed them to start their work again. This is point number one. The second is the enrichment program. As everyone knows, Iran has two large facilities.
One thing I noticed, some names are out and others aren't. Does anything stand out to you in terms of who wasn't hit? What should we read into that?
Well, so I don't want to get into the names specifically because I don't want to neither idolize, but also not to make it personal also for them. But the scientists that were taken have been in the recent years heads of departments of physics in various universities, government universities and other universities, in Imam Hussein in Tehran and in others. And they've been, some of them have led the organizations in the past, like Faridun Abbasi, for instance, and these people again they have been working together with the they call them legendary Fakhrizadeh, Mohsen Fakhrizadeh, that was the head of SPND, the head of the weaponization program. He was killed a few years ago in Tehran. And these people are very capable scientists, very capable people who chose, unfortunately, to devote their lives into building the nuclear bomb, and not others. And I think without them, it will be difficult for Iran to reassemble everything. Israel got a lot of understanding of what the program is all about from the nuclear archive that we took back in the beginning of 2018. We knew a lot about what they did up to 2003 because the archive covers mostly their activities until 2003. We knew what they did, where their laboratories were, what was their expertise in. It was quite shocking to see how advanced it was. And I raised this point because when people listen and hear the Supreme Leader's statements, he always says, we don't have a nuclear bomb, we won't have a nuclear bomb. I issued a fatwa that we'll never have a nuclear bomb. Well, that wasn't true. Until 2003, he was working very, very strongly towards that end, and he kept all of this infrastructure intact. And again, recently decided to move ahead because he did not see any progress in the negotiations. So this is a key element of Iran's ability to get to a bomb.
From your perspective, especially as someone with physics background, how much weight do you put on the knowledge base versus the infrastructure? If you had to break it down, what percentage of the program's strength was tied to those individuals?
So it's a good question because it differs on the various aspects of the program. So on weaponization, I think we've done a lot of damage to the knowledge base. I think because it is so scarce and it depends on a high level of expertise of individuals themselves. I think on the weaponization, I hope that I'm right. I think in the weaponization, we were able to set back Iran dramatically backwards. I cannot say that on enrichment. On enrichment, Iran has developed this not only knowledge, but all the way to full industrial level over the same period of time, over decades. The facility in Natanz that I understand was hit successfully was huge. The capacity there was to produce a huge amount of low enriched uranium, and if Iran is chosen, also high enriched uranium in a matter of time, built underground, covered with a thick layer of concrete. And this was attacked by our Air Force, and if I understand correctly, is out of commissioning. But there's another one, deeper in the ground, dug under a mountain in Fordo. It's a smaller one. They built it specifically to be safe from attacks, and they built it to provide the enriched uranium for the bomb due time. Israel has caused damage to that facility, but not anything similar to what was done in Natanz. A lot has been talked about the capabilities that the United States has that Israel does not have. most of that relates to that facility. The Americans have bunker busters that are much heavier, carried by much bigger planes than what we have, that could also hit that facility. The Americans are not part of this attack. This is an Israeli attack. And we do the best that we can with what we have. It's quite substantial, but it is not complete. So that facility, the amount of damage there is not maximal, for sure. Iran might think that they could restore their program there after all of this ends. They should know that Israel will know what they're doing, and they should know that Israel could, if so needed, come back and attack it and prevent them from operating. And again, if they don't have the infrastructure around it, there will be a question of what Iran's nuclear strategy will be afterwards. And even if we did take that site out, to your question about knowledge, the knowledge Iran has in enrichment is very wide. Many, many people are part of this. And it is more difficult to set back the enrichment program for many, many years. And I think this is why we focused also on weaponization, to make sure that the large piece, which again at the end delivers the bomb, otherwise if there is no bomb, the level of danger is less. This is why we went about both of these, did the maximum we could in enrichment, but hopefully a substantial damage in weaponization.
Let's talk about enrichment. How critical is Fordo in the bigger picture? Is it symbolic now, or is it still doing real heavy lifting in uranium enrichment?
So it does a lot of enrichment, not as much as in Natanz, but it does substantial amount of enrichment. And Iran has focused their higher level of enrichment in Fordo specifically, and they know why, because it's safe. And they know that the high enriched uranium is has no purpose other than going for a bomb. So they know why they did it. They're trying to keep it as safe as they could. We must be frank about it, because now it is the only facility that is left. It will become even more important for the Iranians, and this will continue to be a focus for Israel, for the international community. I don't know what would be the nature of the safeguard work of the IAEA in Iran after this ends. Many things will need to be restructured and rethought. But whatever arrangement we will have, there will be a lot of focus on what is done in Fordo to ensure that Iran does not break out from what is left of their capabilities. And in the enrichment case, specifically in Fordo. Yeah, the third one is the materials, yes. And that is indeed maybe the most tricky piece, because Iran has accumulated a huge amount of enriched uranium. Well, so they need 100 pounds of enriched uranium for a single bomb. In about 90% enriched uranium, and they haven't started accumulating 90%. This is one of the reasons Israel has acted, but they have a huge amount in 60%, which is just a notch below that. Yeah, they have a double-digit amount of bombs worth of enriched uranium, 60%, somewhere between 12 and 20. A huge amount. And of course, they have much more in lower enriched uraniums, in 3.5 and in 20%. They have a lot of enriched uranium. And they have stored this in various places in Iran. One should know that maybe this was one of the significant achievements of the previous agreement of the JCPOA, was to eliminate all of the stockpile, and Iran has given the stockpile it had to Russia and diluted some of the pieces, but it took them very short period of time to accumulate again the stockpile since 2018, when Trump stopped withdrew from the JCPOA. They started accumulating enriched uranium in growing numbers, most of it in 2021, 22, 23, in recent years, and they reached a huge amount of enriched uranium. This is stored in various places. Some of it is stored in Natanz, some of it is stored in Fordo, some of it is stored in Isfahan, and it's very difficult to take care of such materials militarily. And this is also an element that we will need to pay attention to in the day after, to monitor the stockpiles. The IAEA, one of its prime prides is the ability to monitor the amounts and to see that there is no diversion of the materials. I hope they were able to do this sufficiently, because Iran has done so much in recent years. this will need to call for a lot of attention to make sure that Iran does not divert some of the uranium that it is already enriched to 60%, for instance, and then they can do the last piece of enrichment in a small facility hidden somewhere. It doesn't have to be in a tunnel under a mountain. It just needs to be in a place that we are not either able or knowledgeable to get. And this is a risk that we will need to take care of in the future.
Just to be clear, you said they haven't stockpiled 90% yet. Do we have an estimate on how much enriched uranium they do have, especially at 60%, pounds, potential bombs?
To go from the 60% uranium that they have to 90% for a single bomb, the estimate was that they can do this within several weeks. This is a major piece of the breakout, right, of their ability to go to a bomb. They need the scientists we spoke about in the beginning of the program to take that enriched uranium, turn it into the bomb itself. That's a different set of technological expertise. But yes, as it comes to the enriched uranium itself, Iran became very, very close, dangerously close.
The decision to go after senior IRGC and Quds Force figures, was that about degrading military capacity, or is there a wider objective beyond the nuclear containment?
So first, let's be precise about it. Israel did not go about civilian political leaders in Iran. Israel, other than the nuclear program that we spoke about right now, in the first night went after IRGC commanders, military leaders, military commanders in their air force, in their Quds Force. Israel went after the commanders that will be responsible for the counterstrike on Israel, and that will be responsible for building capabilities to try and go after Israel militarily. And in fact, people who have been responsible in recent years to do many, many bad stuff to Israel, but not only to Israel. Quds Force, as you know well, has been active in all of the Gulf countries and the Arab countries. All of the pragmatic countries in the Middle East have felt the wrath of the proxy organizations, all created by the Quds Force apparatus, first by Qasem Soleimani, that was taken down in 2019, and in recent years by Kawly. And we've seen what Kataib Hezbollah has been doing in Iraq, and what activities have been done in Syria and in Lebanon, of course, and the Houthis in Yemen, and all of that. This is a Middle Eastern issue. I'm talking now from an Israeli perspective. Everyone can fill their gaps in their way. Israel went after those people who have weaponized Iran's capabilities against Israel and against the other countries in the region. This was significant because, as we've seen since the Israeli strike, Iran has fired hundreds of ballistic missiles at Israel. Unlike Israel, they are targeting civilian population. We have already about, I don't want to get to the exact number because last night we had a very bad attack in Bat Yam, a town close to Tel Aviv, and the numbers are not finalized yet, but we're already accumulating a large number of casualties, all civilians, in their beds at night or in their safe rooms while they're at it. Iran is not going after our military or our industry. Iran is going after our civilians. Because this is the nature of the way they think they should conduct this operation. And this is why Israel went after these people, to try and minimize their ability to respond, and also to start accumulating success to deprive Iran from the ability to do this in the future. And right now, when we have our airplanes and missiles in Iran, a part of it is doing residual work on the nuclear program, but most of what Israel is doing right now is going after the military capabilities of Iran, the stockpiles of the ballistic missiles, the infrastructure of production of them, the military bases from where they're firing at. We're going after their military capabilities to prevent them from the ability to harm us, and I would say also harm our friends and allies and colleagues in the pragmatic countries all around the Middle East, the Abraham Alliance, and so forth.
Reports mentioned drones being smuggled in suitcases, trucks, even containers. Without asking for classified details, what's the real operational challenge in staging something like that? You've been in those rooms. How does that kind of thing even get greenlit?
So, I will answer very cautiously, with your permission. First of all, because I don't have a habit to brag about operations. I think that One of the important things about an organization like Mossad, which I served in for many years, and I'm very proud to be a part of it, is that things are kept in the secrets. Sometimes it's better, I think all times, it's better for people to imagine how things were done than actually to know how things were done. But I will say this.
You said something that stuck. Some things are better left unspoken. Mind if I use that line? Better for people to imagine how something was done than to actually know. I like that.
Israel has been using a large amount of tools as it comes to Iran. Iran is 2,000 kilometers away from Israel. We cannot deal with Iran the way we deal with our enemies across the border. The fact that we're able to conduct such a long standing operation by the Air Force on Iran is a result of years of accumulation of capabilities, training, and also it's very costly. And Israel is doing this because we need to. What we've used with intelligence and with operational intelligence over the years is to use a vast variety of tools to do certain things. First is to understand what's really going on, and then whenever possible to try to delay or divert the Iranian capabilities so that they're not successful to reach their goals without use of military force. And I can tell you, a lot of it has been published, and many stories have been out there about different things that Israel has done. And I don't want to go about them because most of them are, even though they were published, they're still classified. But the stories about things that have done over the years. And the late General Meir Dagan, that was head of Mossad, had the privilege of working for him. And in other instances, I think Israel has been done quite well in delaying the program of Iran for many, many years in various issues. And the fact that we're only now needed to a military strike is a result of that work. And I think it is very important and crucial. I mentioned the archive before, so here is an example that I think I can be more easily to talk about. Israel was able to steal under the nose of the most sensitive military intelligence and security establishment in Iran, an archive that they kept secret. They bragged that very few people knew about its existence and where it was. And here, Mossad was able to make an operation to get there in night, steal it out of safes and get it back safe to Israel and expose it to the entire world. So everyone will know that Iran was lying and they actually was going after a nuclear bomb while they were saying that they were not. This is very difficult operations, not done easily, takes a lot of time, a lot of people involved.
Bigger picture, drones, AI, long distance targeting. Are we looking at a fundamentally different kind of warfare right now? Or are we still in the old world, but with just new toys?
That's a good question, and specifically because it's looking into the future. And I can tell you two things about it. First, it's hard to know what will happen, but the second thing I think is more important. We can all take a part in inventing it. So the question of what will happen has a lot to do with what we will think that we can do, and also our ability to understand what our enemies might do to be able to defend it against it. So if we look at what we're seeing now, most of the damage that Iran is doing to Israel is done by ballistic missiles. This is a technology that backdates to the 40s of the previous century, right? Iran tried to use more sophisticated tools in this war. Cruise missiles, drones, long-range Shahids, cyber. But at the end, most of the damage they're doing to Israel is through ballistic missiles. And this is something we need to understand, that at the end, in a war, you need big bombs with big warheads if you want to cause significant damage. This is hard to do with the other means that we see. If, just to paraphrase, also Hamas, God forbid, and unfortunately in October 7, when they were able to attack us, they didn't do it with sophisticated capabilities. They broke down the wall, stormed into the villages with people, and did it the old way. And this is, I think, a realization about war in general. While we think about all these advanced technologies, at the end, unfortunately, people are still getting killed in the old-fashioned, brutal way of warfare. Having said all of that, we will definitely see more advanced things, because the ability to surprise an enemy through smaller tools, more sophisticated, everybody's talking about drones, and I believe that this will be a serious thing. If a swarm of drones operated by artificial intelligence to make sure that they do not crash one into another, and all targeted rightly and timely into their places, that's a big deal. It's hard to detect, it's hard to prevent, it's hard to shoot down. It's sometimes easier to shoot down a bigger element than a large number of smaller elements, and we will all need to be able to understand that and to prevent that. In a sense, you're right. I mean, what we've heard about the attack, the Israeli attack on June 12th, at that night, it wasn't a swarm, but a large number of drones simultaneously attacked people in their homes. I think this was an example of what we might see in the future. There is some kind of resemblance to what we've heard that the Russians suffered from the Ukrainians when the Ukrainians attacked their military bases, their real military bases, and their bombers. Maybe it was similar in some way. What's interesting about it is that it's very precise and hard to defend. In the Israeli case, and that's a point to be made, it also allows to achieve success with minimal undesired casualties and damage. Israel was able to attack just the people that we wanted and not crash entire buildings while we're at it, because again, it is small, it is precise. This is the logic we try to use. If you want the same logic that was deployed in the pagers and the walkie-talkies, only the Hezbollah people were hit with a small amount of ammunition, not with big bombs that can kill many people in it. So Israel's ability to use technology to be sophisticated is exemplified in all of those examples that I spoke about. But unfortunately, I think we will still see the old warfare causing a lot of damage.
Looking at how this unfolded, what caught you off guard, if anything, either in Israelis' execution or Iran's response?
Well, to be fair, I was surprised about the timing, because I thought that the American President Trump was still favoring negotiations over a military attack, as he's been saying for even the days before the attack. He's been saying it. I'm not suggesting that he was deceiving the Iranians, maybe, but what is certain is that he was well aware, I understand, of the Israeli planning. President Trump doesn't need to give Israel a green light and say, go ahead, but he definitely must have told them that he does not oppose such a strike, because if President Trump would have opposed the strike, it wouldn't have happened. So the fact that the Americans, President Trump, decided to favor an Israeli attack in this instance, days before another round of negotiation, that surprised me in the timing. But, I think it's good that I was surprised, because I'm a civilian. I'm not in the inner circle. I shouldn't know secrets that I shouldn't know. That's the only way to surprise the enemy, is if even people like me were out of the loop. And that was a surprise that I was happy to internalize.
On the operation side, was there anything that surprised you in how the IDF pulled this off, especially while the Gaza operation is still ongoing?
So operationally, look, I think the response I'll give to that is I'm not surprised with what Israel can do. I've been national security advisor up until less than 3 years ago, and many of the things that were done today, it takes years to build, and I was in one way or another involved in many of that. That did not surprise me. What did surprise me is the ability of the IDF to conduct that while we still have the war in Gaza. I was worried that the long in Gaza that I think we should have brought to a close a long while ago, get back our hostages and move ahead in the Gaza context. I guess we'll talk about this in a different interview. I've spoken about this in your network in previous interviews, but it was my thinking that it will be difficult for the IDF to do this simultaneously. And this is another mistake that I'm happy to internalize. The IDF and the security establishment in Israel has proven to be able to be very potent and to do things in sync. Not that I like it. I don't want to be involved in long wars. I don't want to be involved in so many of them. I hope that this round of wars can project a long period of stability. Now that our adversaries, and I would say also the other countries in the region's adversaries, have been hit back, I hope it will create conditions for a period of stability and prosperity in the Middle East. We all need it. But if we do need to fight, I think what we've proven is that we can fight, and we can fight in parallel and simultaneously. We might be strong, might be small, but we're strong. And I think this is an important message also for the region. We fight the wars that some of our neighbors would want to fight but cannot. I don't want to put the word in their mouth, and I know that they are more afraid of Iranian retaliation than we are. But when we do this damage to Iran, this is also good for the future of the peoples of the region, the pragmatic peoples of the region, the Abrahamic Alliance, all those who want prosperity in the region. They know, some of them know better than me, how diverse Iran's activity was in their countries.
Let's talk about what comes next. Is there any concern about an unconventional retaliation, not just militarily? I'm thinking cyber, soft targets, attacks outside the region, diaspora communities. What's on your radar?
Iran chose to retaliate directly on Israel using things that basically we know. We're experiencing now things that are pretty much similar to what we've seen in October of 24 when they fired a large barrage. They claimed it was in response to us taking out Ismail Haniya in Tehran, but I don't know what excuse they needed. But basically, we've seen an Iranian response along those lines. There are two things that are, I wouldn't say, maybe also surprising, but important to pay attention. Iran has threatened not only to retaliate against Israel. Iran threatened to retaliate against Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, saying that they have helped Israel throughout the years and they will retaliate against them. Iran also threatened to retaliate against the United States. And Iran chose not to do any of that. I think Israel was very careful not to use the airspace of Saudi Arabia at all. And that was, I'm sure, done deliberately and intentionally. We do not want to drag our friends in Saudi Arabia into this. But the fact that Iran does not retaliate against them and turn it into a regional thing.
There's a lot of speculation about air routes. Do we have or do we know which airspaces are used during the airstrikes? Was Saudi airspace involved, or was it all through Iraq and Syria?
And to the best that I know, and a lot of it has been published already, and there are maps of airplanes, and you can see the routes where we came, all about. Israel has deliberately not violated Saudi Arabia's airspace. If we don't need to, there is no reason to do this. And again, we respect the Saudi interests. We respect the Saudi fears. I wish they weren't so fearful of the Iranians. I wish they will be strong enough to defend themselves also. But this is their business, not Israel's business. We have not violated Saudi airspace. Not now, and not in previous rounds. Not in October, and not in April. It is no secret that Israel operates above Syria, of course, and now that there is no air defenses in Syria, it's even easier. Iraq is controlled by the United States. The airspace is controlled by the United States, and if the United States does not oppose Israel's military action, it should not come as a surprise that we can use Iraqi airspace. We also defend above Jordanian skies. By the way, we also defend Jordanian targets if so needed. If a missile would come and we'll understand that it's falling on Jordan, we would intercept it just the same. It's very close. The distance between Jerusalem and Amman is less than, if we go directly, it's like an hour and 30 minutes drive. It's not far. So this is where we operate. In that sense, I think Israel has been very careful not to drag in our friends from the normalization Abrahamic alliance, and definitely not Saudi Arabia. And if this assisted Iran in their decision not to attack Saudi Arabia and the Emirates, then I'm very happy about it, because this was not Israel's intention. Our intention is to go after the Iranian nuclear program and their operative offensive capabilities, and not in no way to start a regional war. We're already in a regional war. We do not want to drag our friends into a war they don't want to be a part of.
We're seeing what looks like a calibrated Israeli strategy, military targets, not civilian infrastructure widely. Is this Israel trying to signal something broader to Iran, a kind of controlled escalation with boundaries?
So I think it's less than an equation and more of signaling. I think what Israel is signaling to Iran, stop firing at our civilians. This is not a civilian matter. This is a military matter. We're going after your military capabilities, your nuclear capabilities. We are not bombing civilian populated areas in Iran because we're not after the Iranian people. We're after the Iranian regime capabilities. And how does Iran respond? In firing ballistic missiles at the most heavily populated centers of Israel, killing yesterday double-digit people, both in the Galil and in Bat Yam, close to Tel Aviv, and other places. I think what Israel is doing, we're signaling to Iran, we can attack any point in Iran. We choose not to. Stop doing this. Stop killing our civilians. This is not about the civilians. And eventually, let's end this conflict because Israel is not interested in an endless war with Iran. I think this is the signal Israel is giving. And the ball is in the Iranian hands because if Iran will decide to continue to escalate, Israel can escalate. I think Israel has proven that we went after nuclear scientists and military leaders, as we spoke before. We did not attack civilian leaders. But everyone should understand that we could if we wanted to. It's right. I mean, they also have homes and they also act. But we chose not to do this because, again, we are not going after the civilian infrastructure of Iran. This is a military issue on nuclear and military targets. But we have signaled that we could do this. So I don't know if it's a new equation. It might become a new equation. I wish it won't. And I think it's also important. We did the same thing with Lebanon. We did not go after infrastructure in Lebanon during this war. We were as targeted as we could on Hezbollah, on their specific issues. We did not go after Lebanon as a whole. We went after Hezbollah as a vicious radical military that I think is also destroying Lebanon. But that's for the Lebanese to do. And a very similar mindset is applied on Iran.
If this drags on, what should we expect to see next in terms of weapons used or targets hit? Are we heading toward more infrastructure hits or something else?
Look, I think if this continues to escalate, then unfortunately we will see more damage to infrastructure of Iran. And really, I really genuinely and heartfully say this. I hope this is avoided. I hope the Iranian regime does not continue to escalate more than is necessary because they know that they're exposed. They know that we can attack every point in Iran and they cannot attack a point in Israel. And this is a time for them to stop. And they're very clever. They can do this without declaring defeat. They can lie to their people whatever they want and use heroic leniency in every point in time. They shouldn't drag this much longer into that point. But if they continue to kill so many civilians in Israel or damage civilian infrastructure in Israel, then I'm not sure Israel will have any other option other than to go there.
You said Iran's leadership could lie to their people and spin their way out. But isn't that exactly what corners them? If they back down, doesn't it chip away at whatever legitimacy they still have?
Well, let me put it this way. I will not shed a tear if Iran ceases to be an Islamic republic and give rights to its people. To the best of my knowledge, the vast majority of Iranians do not support the radical regime in Iran and would want a more open, Western-leaning country. That's for the Iranians to decide. I'm not talking about regime change. This is not part of what I do. But to your point about putting the regime in the corner, well, yes, but who put who in the corner? They chose to develop a weapon of mass destruction after, for years and decades, publicly saying that one of their ambitions and goals is to eradicate the Jews from the face of the earth and to move Israel from the Middle East. Okay, so who's doing what to who? if Iran was minding Israel has no issue with Iran other than them going after us and posing an existential threat to us. They chose to do this. We defend ourselves because we have no intention of surrendering when someone is threatening to kill us. So we rise first, right? This is a biblical command: rise and attack first. So we do. Okay, so now they're in a corner because they were not capable of doing this rightfully, and Israel got the upper hand. This is no reason to go after civilians. This is no reason to go and kill Israelis in this way. Maybe they need to change their strategy. Maybe it's about time for them to understand, like others in the region, that Israel has a right to be here, and that we do not pose a threat unless we are attacked ourselves. And maybe it's time to have a new paradigm in the Middle East. So many of the countries of the region have come to this realization.
I want to come back to the so-called axis of resistance. Where are they? Iran's being hit and the rest of the ring is barely reacting. What do you think is going on?
Well, the axis has been hammered and degraded. It's very painful for me to say something positive about the events of October 7, because October 7 was the culmination of that ring of fire. When Hamas attacked Israel so brutally under surprise on that Shabbat morning of October 7, 2023, and massacred hundreds and hundreds of Israelis, most of them still in their beds, that was the culmination of the Iranian strategy of a ring of fire. Right? Their dream was that if Hamas and Hezbollah and the radical forces in Syria and the Houthis were able to simultaneously attack Israel, maybe they can take us down. Now, they did not act simultaneously for their reasons. I'm very happy they didn't, because if they did, if Hezbollah would have joined Hamas on that morning of Shabbat, I'm not sure we would be talking like this in this way today. Thank God. But the damage Hamas did was severe enough. And the chain of events that happened afterwards, Israel had no choice but to go after Hamas very, very strongly. I wish this war didn't start. I wish this war wouldn't be so long. And I wish there was not such devastation in Gaza harming civilians during this war. Well, we did not start this war. Hamas started this war. And they fight from civilian areas. You know this. When Hezbollah decided to join a few days later, they also did not give us hope. We did not ask Hezbollah to join. They joined. Why? Because of the ring of fire strategy, right? They could not leave their friends in Gaza all alone. This ended up the way it ended. And in the last quarter of 24, the pagers, the walkie-talkies, targeting Nasrallah and the other premiers, and Hezbollah is no longer what it used to be before. To the point where Hezbollah said themselves they're not joining to defend Iran in this war. This was one of the major things Israel took under consideration before thinking about attacking Iran, is that this will automatically open a front in Lebanon. Well, there is no front in Lebanon because Hezbollah is not what it used to be, and Lebanon is licking its wounds from what Hezbollah imposed on Lebanon from joining Hamas in that war. And then we're left with the Houthis. Now the Houthis, they only have what they have. The Houthis for months and months have been irritating the Israeli public with firing ballistic missiles every so often. We could intercept them because we can't have good air defense. But their ability to really cause damage, when Iran is firing 300 ballistic missiles, what does one ballistic missile coming from Yemen have to appear? Iran is left alone. It lost Syria. If everything goes well, maybe in the next election, inshallah, they will also lose the support in Iraq, because I think the Iraqis understand that Iranian influence is bad for Iraq. This is not about us. Just as much as the Syrian understood that Iranian influence is bad for the Syrians. Again, this is not about us. Al-Julani is not a supporter of the Zionist movement, right? To say the least. But he understands that the Iranian influence in Syria is more damaging than us. I hope that the Lebanese will understand that. I hope that President On will stand strong. He's a fierce general, commander of the LAF. He knows exactly what he needs to do. And I hope that the region uses this opportunity that Israel has created to push the Iranian influence back. It's bad. It's bad for Jordan. It's bad for Lebanon. It's bad for Bahrain. It's bad for Saudi Arabia. It's just bad. It's bad for the region. This is not about us. This is about you, the listeners in Arabic who are listening to me now. We are your friends.
Saudi Arabia being mentioned a few times, does this shift the prospects of normalization? Are we closer to a deal now, or did this complicate it even further?
So it's early to say. Israel and Saudi Arabia were presumably very close to agreeing on normalization before October 7, and then the war started. I personally think that this was a major intent in the masterminds behind this attack to prevent the normalization process, because this was so strategically damaging to Iran and to the Ring of Fire and to the proxies, to Islamic Brotherhood, to Hamas. And I think this did play a role in the decision to move at that specific time in October of 23. But now, in the day after, I think it will take some time, because the flames will need to go low. There is a lot of fear all over the Middle East now. But I think that when this ends, and when the region will see that it is indeed a safer place, because the two radical forces that were trying to radicalize the region, the Shiite revolutionary Iranian movement, and the Islamic Brotherhood, the Sunni Islamic Brotherhood, political Islam embodied in Hamas and Islamic Brotherhood all over the countries. If both of those forces were severely attacked and proven failed in their intention against Israel, I hope that this will be resonating across the Middle East and create conditions for normalization. The fact that Israel can fight so well doesn't mean that Israel wants to fight. It means that Israel fights when we have to. We will not be attacked this way. But what we really want is normalization. What we really want is peace. What we really want is to be part of this region. I used this line many times. I used it in my two speeches in the Manama Dialogue when I was National Security Advisor. This is our neighborhood. This is where we belong, with our friends and with our partners. And this region should not be dominated by violence and hate. It should be dominant by security, stability, and prosperity for all of the nations.
All right, I want to do a quick fire round with a few names and issues. Just give me your gut take. Let's start with Turkey. After the attack, do you see anything shifting in that relationship?
Erdogan. I don't know. I responded to Erdogan because I think a lot of it has to do with what he wants to do. I hope not. I hope Erdogan is not thinking that in this vacuum that he's creating, he should build the new empire, Ottoman Empire, and restore the legacy, the historic legacy of.
Is a strategic rivalry between Israel and Turkey is something we cannot avoid, or is that still avoidable?
There shouldn't be strategic competition between Israel and Turkey. The only one who will decide if that happens is Erdogan. And if Erdogan decides that there is strategic competition, then Israel will need to act accordingly. I truly hope we don't need more enemies. The region doesn't need more rulers, emperors, thinking that they can dominate the region. We had enough of that. Enough.
Gaza war, what now?
It must end. It must end.
Julani, what do you make of him at this moment?
A mystery so far.
Syria, do you see normalization on the table there?
Possible.
Lebanon, more or less likely for progress?
I think less possible, but more desirable, in the sense that I think this will do good to the region because it will push the Iranian influence in Lebanon. Well, I really hope that the President On will be capable of moving towards that direction. Israel has no conflict with Lebanon. I supervised the maritime agreement with Lebanon back in 22. Part of it was to give the people of Lebanon an opportunity. Unfortunately, that reservoir is empty and there is no gas there. But the intention was to give them an opportunity to build their economy again while pushing Hezbollah out.
Collapse of the Iranian regime, still far off or increasingly likely?
Likely.
Iraq, change coming, what kind?
Desirable.
Houthis in Yemen, how serious a threat are they really strategically?
A bunch of thugs I wish everyone will join their forces. This is not a big organization. If we all put our minds together to it, they're crushed. If the lifeline of them that is coming through the sea and through territories around it, I don't want to make names, will all work in sync on this, we can choke them and they will disappear.
The Palestinian Authority, still relevant or just ticking along without public support?
Underperforming, corrupt, uh, uh, is not supported by their own people. The Palestinians deserve a better, pragmatic, rational, non-corrupt leadership than what they have now.
Jordan, how stable do you see things right now? Are they holding the line against Iran's reach?
I'm worried about Jordan. I'm worried about the ability of Jordan to defend itself against the influence coming from Iran and the radicalizing forces in it. But Jordan is an ally. Jordan is a country with peace with Israel. Jordan is a country that its security is a national security interest for Israel. And I hope that we can amend some of those fabrics. I know some of my counterparts in Jordan, and I know that they also want this. Collaboration between Israel and Jordan can do wonders to the Jordanians. I think it will also have a positive effect on the Palestinians.
Gaza again. Some names are floating around as possible administrators. Is that just smoke, or do you see something real taking shape?
That's not an administration. That's merely a pill against headache. At best, they can restore some kind of order. The question of Gaza must be governed through serious civilian pragmatic forces who will care about the people of Gaza more than they would care about killing us, the Israelis. Without regional support, serious regional support around it, this will never happen.
What would you say directly to Sisi? You've spent hours in the room with Egypt's leadership. What's the message right now?
Egypt. When I was National Security Advisor, I spent many hours with my Egyptian counterpart. I think I visited, we had meetings more than I did with any country in the region because Egypt is so strategic to Israel. Egypt has their own struggles for their own ability to stand tall against the radical forces around them. They know exactly what Islamic Brotherhood can do to them. But it's difficult now in Egypt. I don't want to get too deep into this. I think that there could be a wonderful prospect of collaboration between Israel and Egypt if we put our minds to it as we did before.
What's the hardest part of dealing with Egypt, honestly? What keeps that relationship from going deeper?
I think it's the indoctrinated hate of the Egyptians against Israel for decades. The peace with Egypt did not penetrate down to the people. It stayed with the security echelons and the political.
Do you see Iran closing the Strait of Hormuz, or would that just bring the US in hard?
I would be very surprised if they do that. This will open a new door for the Americans to intervene. This will not be in Iran's favor. This will be a mistake on their behalf. But it doesn't mean they won't do it because they're desperate. They're in a corner and maybe they'll make the wrong choice.
Are we looking at a multi-week campaign right now or longer? What's your gut?
I hope not. I hope not. I think this campaign in Iran should end much sooner and create conditions for engagement. President Trump already said it, and I think it's important. This is what I would hope that we'll see.
AI in warfare and wars. Do you support it in the battlefield context, or does it cross the line for you?
Well, I think AI is going to dominate all of our computing capabilities. So there is, we cannot support it assisting in medicine and in data analysis and not understand the benefits of it. I think it can help those who want it to use it properly to make us more precise and make less mistakes and cause less damage to civilians because we will be operating with better data than we did before. So I'm not that afraid of that.
Drones. tactical advantage or strategic game changer?
Drones. Well, drones is the new stunt in the game, right? It's very cheap. It's very easy to deploy. It's very accurate. We see more and more of it, and we should expect to see more and more of it in the future.
Benjamin Netanyahu, what's your current assessment?
Look, Benjamin Netanyahu has been the Prime Minister of Israel for a very long time. And even though I served as National Security Advisor to the opposing camp, he deserves credit for the things he did. He deserves criticism for the things he did. I think he bears responsibility for many things that are happening in the region. I hope for him that his legacy will be remembering him with the good things that he did. But unfortunately, the way he acts now makes it difficult for that to happen. But we should give him the credit for what he did. And Israel needs to get new leaders for the future.
Naftali Bennett, you served under him. Does he have a path back to the Prime Minister's seat?
Let's see. We're going to elections. We will see.
Thank you for your time and thank you for this candid conversation.